I'm here today with Mike Ralston, Chief Executive of London-listed Blencowe Resources, epicode BRES, a company that outright owns the Orom Cross Graphite project in Uganda. Graphite is, of course, a key component in the new generation lithium-ion batteries that power electric vehicles. Mike, it's good to speak with you.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me on.
So, Mike, before we discuss the latest announcement today, can you provide a brief potted history of Blencowe and the Orom Cross project?
Yeah, so Blencowe acquired the Orom Cross project 100% last April in a deal, an all shares deal. So we acquired it with a view to fast tracking this project through as quickly as we could on the various stages to production. We underwent a 2,000 meter diamond drilling program last year. It got a little bit delayed because of COVID restrictions in Uganda, but it was ultimately completed in the third quarter. Those samples have now been sent. They've been prepped in a lab in Tanzania, and they've been sent down to South Africa, where we're getting some assay work done in order to get the Maiden JORC resource out shortly. And other samples have been sent off to Canada to go for metallurgical test work. So it's a great project, and we're advancing it as quickly as we can.
Excellent. Okay. So today you announced spectacular near-surface graphite intercepts, which are up to double the average Orom Cross grade. We've got a slide here. Can you just take us through these, Mike?
Yeah, so what happened when we were drilling out there doing this diamond drill program last year, we were working through an area where the previous owners had already drilled and done some trenching, and we knew that there was a lot of graphite, and we were basically putting the program together, drilling away. And then we came across an area where a couple of holes had been done previously, and they produced some pretty good results. So we thought, let's drill a couple of holes in here ourselves. We started with one, got some excellent visible results. So we continued to drill a number of holes as part of that program from 2020. And that's what we call the camp load. And we've been expecting to get some decent grades and decent results out of that. As you can see from this particular slide, if you take the average grade across the entire Orom Cross project or deposit, which is a huge deposit, so talking about an average grade is quite difficult in some ways because it's so big. There are going to be pockets of very high grade and pockets of low grade, but the average of about 6 to 8%, we should well exceed that with what we're seeing from the camp load. And what that means is that certainly for a period of initial mining, and we don't know how many tons we've got yet because that's going to be part of the assay work that's ongoing and the JORC, but for a period of time, we should be able to mine a higher grade product from Orom, and we'll be able to obviously get that through it at a lower mining cost per ton. So it represents some very low-hanging fruit of considerable value to us. And to make it even, I suppose, more sexy, we've got large and jumbo flakes within that core as well. So it's a very promising result for us in terms of where we're going in this project and in terms of what it represents for us in a mining and production capacity.
Excellent. Okay. Right, Mark, I've got two questions for you here. Firstly, is this a defining value inflection point moment for Blencowe? And secondly, can you hazard a guess as to the likely outcome for the Maiden JORC resource estimate?
I think it does represent an inflection point because up to now, I suppose the market's been seeing that we're at a medium, what I'd call a medium range grade of around about 6 to 8%. We've always said that we've got so much graphite there that there are going to be pockets of high grade. And those pockets are not small pockets. There's a lot of graphite. And as we go and find these pockets, we should be able to raise the overall grade of this project and what we're going to mine quite considerably. So for me, it's an inflection moment because it represents the fact that we've proven that we've actually got high grade product in there. We're also proving that it's got large and jumbo flakes, which is very valuable and ultimately could be the most valuable of all graphite that we can produce out of this project. So in a mining context, we'd be able to go and drill out more of this going forward. I don't say that we've got any of it to drill right now, but as we go forward and develop this project further, we should be able to find other pockets of high grade to be able to extend the overall tonnage of high grade product. So it's a very important moment, and we're very proud of it, and we're very excited about it. In terms of the JORC, the assay work is being being taken on as we speak, and it's being worked on in labs in South Africa. That's where SGS are doing the work, and look, we've been promised that will come out in the next couple of weeks. We're always a little bit wary on timing because it's just such a crazy COVID world that we live in at the moment, and people are doing it tough in terms of lockdowns, and things just don't quite work the same way they've worked in the past. But they've done a pretty good job so far, and I think that in the near term, certainly within the next month and a half, we should be able to get our Maiden JORC resource out. And as I recall, we were talking about taking off, the whole program was designed to deliver the first 10 years of mine life at an estimated production of about 25,000 tons per annum. So it's going to come, and it's hopefully going to look quite good when it does arrive.
Excellent. Well, in a sense, you've answered my next question, which is, of course, the results covers less than 1% of the overall Orom Cross area, and the steps you're going to take to develop the rest of the territory. But you've covered that.
Well, I haven't really covered that actually, because it's very important to note that with the size of this entire deposit, and it's just so vast that you could sit here and drill it forever, and you're probably still never going to get halfway through drilling it out to the full 2 to 3 billion tons. So you have to take chunks of it, try and find obviously good parts of it in terms of both grade, flake size, and metallurgy, and then develop that with a view to mining the first couple of years. And while you're mining, you can even be drilling out some more in terms of the next years, etc., etc. So we've just taken a portion of it, a very small portion. I think it's actually less than half of 1%. And we're saying, right, that's where we anticipate to do our first mining. But as we go forward, this leaves an awful lot of graphite still out there. And it means that we've got plenty of leverage, because if this battery market or any other market associated with the graphite starts to really explode, as we're predicting and the analysts are forecasting, we will have the ability to drill out more, to produce more, and ultimately to make this project considerably bigger going forward. So it does represent quite a significant leverage and upside that we've got available.
Excellent. So less camp load, more mother load.
Well, it's going to be as high a grade as we can find. At the end of the day, the grade's very important. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got double the amount of graphite coming out per ton, it just means you're going to get double the quantity coming through for the same cost of per ton mined, and that's just going to represent higher value to us going forward. So it's great, and the more we can get at a higher grade, the better, and we'll continue to look for it. But at the moment, we'll obviously take this initial camp load, and we'll start looking at the metallurgy. We'll start looking at obviously how we're going to mine it, and ultimately putting a feasibility study together around it.
Of course. So given the interest obviously in graphite due to electric vehicles, the battery industry, and so on, how does Blencowe stand up to in comparison to your peer group, companies like Armadale, Tirupati, even Syrah Resources?
Look, they're all great projects and great deposits. I think the one thing all of those projects have got in common is that they've got many billions of tons in some cases, and they represent large-scale projects that can obviously fulfill some of this demand that's going to emerge in this market going forward. I think the difference for us at this stage is that a company like Syrah has already developed this project into production, and Tirupati's got some production happening as well. Armadale's sort of moving quickly towards that. So they represent companies that are probably a few steps further down the line than we are. But having said that, they're ranging between 50 million to probably 300 million in terms of market cap, and we're sitting at 10. So I think it gives our shareholders and investors in the market a taste of what we can deliver if we come through and obviously tick the boxes and go forward in a similar fashion to what they've done. And I don't see any reason why we can't do that. And we're going to be moving as quickly as we can to successfully deliver news flow that shows that we can get that same sort of growth.
Good. Okay. So, Mike, of course, you've achieved all this in spite of the challenge of COVID. And on top of that, the company, of course, is in a very strong financial position following recent fundraisings. And, of course, your board all participated in that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, we know what we've got, and we're very excited about it. So we're very happy to participate when necessary. I don't think we'll do it all the time for the obvious reason that we want to spread it around and get other people involved. But we definitely participated in a capital raise that was done in December. First Equity came on board as a new broker that wanted to participate together with Brandon Hill in January, and they want to raise some money for their investors as well. So we had another capital raise in January, and the combination of both of those together have left us in a good financial position. It allows us to have the cash to go forward and do the work that we've got to do. So that's good. At the same time, we don't really want to over raise money in the sense that it's dilutive. We think that we can get the share price moving quite considerably higher. So we're going to raise money as required rather than just huge big chunks that are massively dilutive at the early stages. And we've just got to find the right balance.
Sure. Well, Mike, it's been great talking with you. Before we wrap up, can you provide some key takeaway points for investors watching this?
Yeah, I thought there were three things that made sense to leave you with. The first of which, as I've probably said a couple of times, we've got an exceptional project. It's got size and scale. It's got grade. It's got large and jumbo flake sizes. It's got a great location in a country that we think is very stable. And that makes it into a project that can really develop into something quite exceptional going over the longer term. The second part of this is the EV market is really starting to gain some traction. We're seeing a lot more in the news. Only last week, I read something from Elon Musk saying that he believes anyone who can get hold of any battery metals should be grabbing them with both hands right now. And he's obviously aware of just what Tesla, which is only one player in this market, is going to require going forward. And to put it in context, the 1 gigafactory that Tesla are building in Nevada will consume about 1 million tons of graphite, flake graphite per annum. And that's approximately what the whole market is doing in a full year at the moment. So this is going to explode, and it's going to gain more and more traction. The forecast numbers are high. It's going to be a demand-supply imbalance. We've already talked about that in past discussions, but it's really starting to heat up, and it's not going to stop anytime soon because we've got an entire shift in the patterns of transport that are going to emerge over time, and we're going to be an integral part of that. So, and the last point I'd like to leave you with is the leverage that Blencowe has within this particular space. We've got a very low market cap, and we've got plenty of news flow coming forward. And we've got the ability ultimately to upscale production to meet all sorts of different demand scenarios. So exceptional project, EV market that's gaining traction, and enormous leverage into this market going forward. Those are the key messages.
Mike Ralston, Chief Executive of Blencowe Resources, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that.